Imagine two states, one of happiness and one of unhappiness. Where would you say you spend most of your time? Feeling happiness or feeling unhappiness? Well, most people say unhappiness. And of course, there are moments of happy events, being that the evening, being that a nice weekend, a nice vacation, but there is somehow the tendency to come back to a common baseline of unhappiness. What if there was another way? What if we felt happiness most of the times? And of course, feeling the full spectrum of emotions is very important. But what if we could come back to a common baseline of happiness? Feeling at peace, feeling fulfilled, feeling good, instead of feeling disconnected, overwhelmed, sad, and lonely. And I say a common baseline on purpose, because see, we are born happy. Look at kids. They're naturally curious, they're naturally smiling, they wake up in a good mood, they're happy. And whenever they're not, we know we as parents need to do something and take care, usually of a human need that they have. And at that stage, when we're kids, we basically just have basic needs to be taken care of. And those are physiological, safety, and love. But as we become more complex human beings and we grow old, we add a few more needs on top of physiology, safety, and love. And that is self-esteem, so the need to be respected, and purpose, finding our self-actualization and also helping others self-actualize. Simple, right? We'll fulfill our needs in this sequence and we find happiness at the top. We are born happy, yet we learn unhappiness as we grow. What if we could relearn happiness? And this today is the class I wish I had in school. And I say relearn happiness because 40% of our happiness is in our power. Happiness is a skill. Recent studies show that we can learn happiness. There is 40% of it that we can control. The rest, 50%, we're born with, it's in our DNA, we cannot really control much of it. But of course, there is a little bit also 10% of life circumstances that we get used to. But studies show that a whole 40% of our happiness is within our hands. And we can control that through our thoughts and our behaviors. And here is how I did it. And I do it every day because I design my life for happiness constantly. You might think I've been always this very happy person, yet when I was a child, I remember crying a lot. I was very sad. And we all have these moments, I'm sure, but here's what happened to me. When I was a child, I was being raised by my grandparents in Bulgaria, as my parents traveled the world with their magic show. Exciting, yet for me this was very sad, because all I wanted was reconnecting with my parents finally and live under the same roof. And this is why I was drawing colorful pink houses as a symbol of this reunion that I was longing. And see, even when this reunion finally happened, and at the age of 12, I moved to live with my parents from Bulgaria to Italy, it wasn't the happiest moment of my life as I expected. I was without friends, I didn't speak the language, everything was just so new and different. And so I learned the language, I made the friends, I've not only survived, but I thrived in this new environment. And this is how I believe I used that 40% of really influencing my thoughts and my behaviors. And not only that, that moment in my life helped me ever since to really create a power scar of what seemed to be a very, very sad moment in my life. And so today, I speak 6 languages fluently, I travel the world and live in different countries, and I make friends everywhere I go. And of course, I proactively have to design my life for happiness every day using this 40%. But what is happiness? Science says that while happiness is very subjective and personal, it's just a mix of 2 things. How good you feel right now in your life, and how good you feel with your life overall. So how good you feel in this moment on a day-to-day basis, but really in the small moments, and how good you feel with your life. Are you living your purpose? Are you really living your best life? I like to call that your wow life. And inspired by this definition, in all of my learnings, I have created a simplified happiness methodology, which is inspired by the previous definition and everything I've learned throughout my life and all the courses I've taken, which really just is a simplification of, to say, feeling good in your life right now just becomes the now, and feeling good with your life overall, whether you're living your best life, your wow life. I like just to call that the wow. And this are the 4 steps on how to go from now to wow and design your life for happiness. Let's start with step number 1 right now, shall we? If we look at a line of past, present, and future, where would you say you spend most of your time? People usually say the past. That's right. We love reimagining the past. We really love regretting things. Or in the future, catastrophizing, worrying a little bit about it, right? Yet we all know that where happiness lives is in the present, right? And it's very important to take, of course, the memories and the learnings from the past and bring them to the present, as well as be very excited about the future and also cautious at times. But the key is really to focus on the present. And one way I love doing it is through gratitude. So just focus on the good, be appreciative, and be grateful, and you'll find happiness, right? So if we follow this train of thought on a scale that goes from bad, good, and great, we just focus on good, and that's it, we find happiness, right? Yet, once again, we really love to focus on the things we are bad at, on the things that are not going so well, on our weaknesses. And it's our natural survival instinct. That is normal. This is why we need to be a little bit more proactive to focus on the good. Because not only when we focus on the bad, on our weaknesses, let's say, all we can do is get to good with a lot of effort and time sometimes, but only then when we focus on the things we're really good at, can we get to great, way faster, with way less effort. Finding not only success, but also happiness as we do it. And I'm sure you've had examples in your lives when you focus on the things you are so good at, strengths, your talents, your gifts, and you find the magical flow state, where time just disappeared. You were so absorbed in the task you were doing because you found that sweet spot between using your strengths and the task you are having at hand. And that is, my friends, where you maximize the present by focusing on what you're really, really good at. Let's look at step number 2, the wow. And we're not going to think about where we see our best life in 5 to 10 years. Let's just focus on what is the next best thing. And we all kind of know what we need to do in life to find success and happiness, right? Get good grades, find a great job, get married, have kids, and buy a home. And I've done that. I've had the good grades. I've worked for some of the best companies in the world. I found the love of my life. We have kids. And just right now, we're in the process of buying a house of our dreams. And there's more. On top of what I call the success checklist, which is what you just saw, there is another piece. I call it the happiness checklist. And that really has all of your deepest desires, all of your biggest inner wishes. For me, what I have in there is helping others. I've created a viral happiness movement, teaching over 15,000 people how to be happier. And with amazing results, people were 20% happier after just 1 hour of simple happiness hacks. And it's a win-win. By helping others using my strengths, I was also, not only they were happy, but I was also happy in return. And based on that, I've created and started my own purpose-driven business, and as well as moved to live by the ocean, surrounded by like-minded people, which is another very important secret to happiness on top of helping others, is surrounding yourself and building those meaningful relationships. One of the next things I have on my happiness checklist is to deliver TEDx, and that is, I'm so proudly, delivering today, so I can take that off the list as well. And one of the next ones will be writing a book, and a few more that I don't have in here, but you get the idea. It's really about sustainable happiness. It's really about a combination of both a success checklist and a happiness checklist. Why? Because the success checklist is more driven externally, whereas the happiness one is really about the internal fulfillment. It's really about your deepest desires that only you have, and it really comes from within. And see, my parents, of course, the story I told you had a lot of compromises, sacrifices, but they really showed me what it means, happiness and success. So while they told me to focus on the success checklist, they actually showed me with their example what it was to also have a happiness checklist and do what you really want. And of course, a combination of both is what they helped me to discover in my life and find not only success, but also happiness as I grew. And that's it, right? Simple. So we go from now to wow and we find happiness. You wish. There is more. Life is life. There are always obstacles, challenges. There is always something that happens when you least expect it, isn't it? And that is where step number 3 comes into the picture. That is when, on your journey from now to wow, it's critical to believe you can actually bridge the gap. Because see, it's very easy to fall down the trap. Listen to all those limiting beliefs, listen to all that limiting self-talk, and really just be surrounded with limiting environments that don't help us to thrive. But those are exactly the moments when not only we have to believe in ourselves, but we can actually also, and here's a little secret, find people who believe in us. And very often, people believe in us before we do. And that is a game changer. I'm sure you've also had examples in your life of people who believed in you and saw your potential even before you could see it for yourself. Those are the people you need to keep close to you. And step number 4, my favorite, but also the most underrated, it's once you know your now and you know your wow, and you believe you can get there, or find people who believe in you and support you, then there's nothing left to do but doing it. And very often that just requires asking someone who has done it, asking someone who can help you get it, or even just asking someone who can give it to you already, right? And so here today, I ask you to follow the methodology of the 4 steps and go from now to wow, just for yourself. So step number 1, let's do it all together. Think of one thing you're good at. Think of the last time you went into this flow state. What were you doing? What was that strength of yours that you were leveraging? That one talent, gift, or something that comes so natural to you that you almost don't see. What is that? And then step number 2, think of what is the best that can happen. How can you even ideally help others with that strength of yours? And step number 3, who was that person that came to mind when I spoke about believing? Now go and ask them after this talk what they think about your now to wow idea. Ask them for feedback. Ask them to help you make it come true. Because see, if you ask, you might get. But if you don't ask, the answer is already no. And so now that you've learned the process of learning happiness, you have the opportunity to flip that baseline from one of unhappiness to one of happiness. The question is, what are you waiting for? Thank you.